kindly use the raise hand option if you are asking any question, if you wanted to ask any question from our panelist. Thank you for joining with us. And with that, I would like to hand over this stage to one of the beautiful Toastmasters I have ever met, Toastmaster Lasya from Dilshuk Nagar Toastmaster Club. Over to you, Toastmaster Lasya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shivani, for that amazing introduction. Can someone confirm if I'm audible and visible clearly? All right. Thank you so much. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on evaluation. I am Toastmaster Lasya from Dilshuk Nagar Toastmasters, who will be playing the role of moderator here. You might be wondering, we have heard a lot of education sessions on evaluation. We have heard terminology like workshops, but what is this panel discussion on evaluations? Sounds weird, right? No, it is not. Well, when it comes to education sessions, you get to hear only from one person. Now imagine this is a panel discussion. You get to learn, witness, 3 people who have a sound knowledge in evaluation speaking. All right, without any further ado, let me invite our panelists onto the dais who have a lot of experience. Now you might be asking why this lot, but I'm going to introduce each one, then you would be knowing why did I say that lot. All right, so put your hands together for our first panelist, Toastmaster Lasya Madireddy. She is a member of TCS Maitri Hyderabad Toastmasters Club, and she has also been a district contestant of evaluation, a district contestant of International Speech Contest for the year 2019 and 20. Put your hands together for Toastmaster Lasya Madhiretti. Can we spotlight Toastmaster Lasya? Oh, not me. Toastmaster Lasya, are you here? Are you unable to mute yourself? Okay, Toastmaster Lasya is unable to mute or unmute herself. Can you please raise your hand so that we can help you? Did it work?
Yes, I did, but somebody named me as Anush Verma. I don't know who this higher mortal is.
All right, that was some setting. I will rename you.
I've done that myself. Yeah, we're good.
All right. Thank you, Toastmaster Lasya Madhireddy, for joining this panel discussion as a panelist. And now let me invite our second panelist for this panel discussion, DTM Padma Kumar. He is a member of Elan Toastmasters, a member of International Professional Storytellers, author of Storyize Your Message, and Division Governor of Division Head of Toastmaster International. Put your hands together for DTM Padma Kumar. Are you here?
Yes, okay. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Let me rename you so that. All right, Sergeant at Arms, please help me rename Distinguished Toastmaster Padma Kumar as Padma Kumar and not Anuj Verma. Anuj, I know you are the division PR, but you can't do this. You can't call everyone Anuj, okay? Don't do this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so
And
sorry
you
for
took
this
Joy's name.
messing up.
Wow.
Yes, because I joined from Joy's account. That is the reason. But yes, we'll have to investigate why it happened because this is the first time we are conducting a meeting using webinar.
All right. All right.
So yes, we'll sort this
All
out.
right.
Sorry everyone
Thank you
for
so
this.
much. No, that's okay. Toastmaster. Now let us invite our third panelist, Distinguished Toastmaster Pramod Mohandas. He has a 2 years of experience as a corporate trainer, 7 years of experience in Toastmaster in IT sector, served as an area director and club president at Toastmasters, a storyteller by passion and a leader at global stages, award-winning public speaker who loves networking. Put your hands together for Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Pramod Mohandas.
Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you all the panelists for accepting our request and joining this panel discussion. I'm sure that your experience is going to teach all of us a lot of new things and it's going to show us a different perspective for evaluations. Before we get started, I would love to tell all the participants here, kindly switch on your videos so that our panelists know who they are talking to and that they would also feel so encouraged to see you all. So can we just take 30 seconds of time to switch on our videos so that it encourages our panelists? All right. All right. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our division director, division Toastmaster Anish. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Toastmaster Shivani, the area director, and division director Sandeep Raj. Thank you so much for joining. All right, so there are three things I would like to tell before we begin the panel discussion. The first thing, we have conducted a survey and found out what are the usual challenges of one faces in evaluation. The second thing is we put our questions in such a way that it is going to help three categories of audience. One, the contestants. Two, members who are willing to be the target speakers. Three, the judges. How a judge is supposed to prepare, how a target speaker is supposed to prepare, and how a contestant has to prepare. Without any further ado, let's get all the three on board and ask them their experiences. So my first question goes to you, Toastmaster Lasya. Could you please share us your experience as a contestant in evaluation?
Good evening, everybody. And thank you for having me over here, Lasya. Well, my experience of a contestant was overwhelming is the word that I would like to use. That day when I was a contestant, I was donning two roles. One as a convener of the next conference, which is a big, big burden on your head, and also as a contestant. The biggest advantage of being on a district stage as a contestant is the amount of feedback that you get after the session, after the contest. I mean, you're used to your usual feedbacks from the senior members. Maybe if you're a part of the Mumbai chapter, all your Mumbai folks, part of the Hyderabad chapter, it's predominantly the Hyderabad folks. The usual feedback that you get. But when you're a contestant on a district stage, the kind of feedback that you get from everybody across the district, that's when you know what you are exactly on stage. When you get feedback from known people, there is a little bit of perception, but the overwhelming level of feedback that you get from everybody as you get off the stage is the amount of learning that you get being a contestant on the district stage. That was my best part when I was on the district stage. Apart from that, yes, it is a super, super tough competition with the best of the best being there. And whether you win or not, looking at the other contestants is another level of learning. Overall, a phenomenal learning experience is what I would say being a part of being a contestant.
I totally understand what you're trying to say, Toastmaster Lasya. I've been there, done that, felt that. I felt those butterflies being that district contestant. It was not an easy thing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Toastmaster Pramod, we would like to hear from you. How did you feel as a contestant?
Well, I've been a contestant quite a few number of times now, and it's always a great experience contesting at Toastmasters. Specifically in the evaluation contest, I guess there are 2 points that I would like to highlight as a contestant. The first and the greatest learning that I have had as a contestant is evaluating maybe, or being an evaluator is like looking at the night sky. You know, you are going to discover new stars every time you look at the sky, and that's something that I have learned, that the journey as an evaluator never truly ends. Every time you go out there as an evaluator, as a contestant, or as an evaluator, even in a club meeting, there is so much to learn, so many new things that you observe, uh, so many perspectives that you learn from the other contestants as an evaluator, and it helps you evolve. It makes you a better observer, it makes you more empathetic as an evaluator, and it helps you eventually deliver evaluations which are way more personalized. And delivering personalized evaluations is my second learning, wherein as an evaluator and as a contestant, I have learned through my journey that there's no perfect evaluation. There is no one criteria to look at every speech or every speaker. As an evaluator, we evolve to first understand, what the speaker is, and then deliver evaluations which make more sense to that speaker and that speech, rather than developing a very generic evaluation for all kinds of speeches and expecting that there is one medicine or one cure for all the problems on stage. So these are my two learnings. One being sky being the limit to learning as an evaluator, and two, eventually evolving into delivering more personalized evaluations.
Okay, the moment you said that, distinguished Toastmaster Pramod, I can already imagine what you have gone through, your experience, and I'm looking forward to learn a lot of things from you. All right, so let's move on to our next panelist, distinguished Toastmaster Padma Kumar. Sergeant at Arms, can you please help me spotlight distinguished Toastmaster Padma Kumar? Yeah. Yeah. So, good evening, distinguished Toastmaster Padma Kumar, and I would love to hear from you your experience as a contestant in evaluation.
Sure, sure. So I think I agree with both Lasya and Mohandas in terms of the experience that they shared. Personally, for me, I joined Toastmasters fairly late. And most of what I really experienced came in the first 1 year in terms of contestant kind of a role was in the first 1 year, where in that initial enthusiasm, I enrolled for all the formats and I tried to do my best in all the formats. So therefore, I was not so much influenced by the way evaluation was being done within Toastmaster community. I drew on my experience from what I had listened to my bosses as evaluation. I had two particular bosses that I remembered when I wanted to give evaluations. One was a person who was extremely critical in terms of what he had to tell to me, and almost always his appreciation used to come as letters, not as kind of feedback. And there was another boss who would give me a lot of positive reinforcements, but would not really point out to me certain things that I need to improve upon. So when I looked at both of these, I found that, neither was a very effective way in which they were really guiding me. And therefore I said, look, if there was a good balance of both of these bosses or the traits of both of these bosses, it would probably have added a lot of more value to me. So I kind of extrapolated that same experience to my contest or the target speaker and said, what would that speaker like to listen to? So that's how the genesis of the reinforcing and the redirecting feedback came about in my mind. And I started, always focusing in terms of how exactly I can provide both reinforcing as well as redirecting feedback. Toastmasters taught me to really package it in such a way that it provides a lot of motivation to the speaker. So that was a learning that I had to go through in order to ensure that the speaker felt very happy with the feedback that I was giving, while they would also remember very clearly the specific points of improvement that I wanted to suggest. So that was my experience, the initial stages of Toastmastering. Now I've been a Toastmaster for about 10 years, and I've of late not been participating in contests, but the early stage experience, that's what really stuck to me.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. 10 years is a big number, so we look up to listen a lot of things from you. Well, I have always been told by my mentor that evaluation will help you enhance your skills such as listening, how to look at things in a positive perspective. You have to do this, you have to do that. And he has also told me a lot of parameters to consider in an evaluation. Now, let me drive this panel discussion in such a way that it is going to help our audience understand what not to speak in an evaluation. So I would love to hear from Toastmaster Lasya. If you can tell us what not to speak in an evaluation, how not to do how not to do an evaluation.
Oh God. So you're making me the bad cop. Okay. Okay. I would say what not to do. What is best that you can do is where, like to positively put it as. The first thing, the first and the most important thing is there are multiple parameters that we look at when we look at a speech. Always first focus on the content, then the delivery. Don't start off with saying that, hey, your body language was amazing or your voice was amazing. Start off with what was great in content and then improvements. Similarly, whatever delivery, whatever. But content is the king. So keep focusing on content as your primary, even when you're looking out as an evaluator. If you're looking out with with a microscope at a speech, look at the content first. Second thing that I would like to say is generalize the positives, personalize the negatives. When the speech is amazing, beautiful, say, hey, we all felt that the speech was highly emotional, or we all connected to the speech really well. But if you did not like something, say, I felt that, the speech could have been made better in this way, that way, whatever way you felt. So always generalize the positives, but most importantly, personalize the negatives, because it's you who felt that and not the entire audience. Maybe half of them didn't even observe it. All right. That's point two. The third thing is be truthful. Just because you have to say three positives and two negatives, please don't do that. If a speech is genuinely bad, was it too jarring, was it too horrible, please say that the speech needs a lot of improvement. We are all here to learn. Everybody's spending that 7,000 per annum to learn. It's important to tell the person that, yeah, you are here, you need to have a long way. Put it in, I don't say, hey, your speech is horrible. Put it in a nicer way and say, hey, the speech needs a lot of improvement. And last but not the least, a lot of people, which I personally get irked with this, a lot of people say, hey, your first para could be done here, your second para could be done at this part of the stage, third para could be done at this part of the stage. Everybody has a style. Learn to see unless each person's personal style is too jarring or too bad, I think you don't have to comment on it. For example, one of the most powerful speeches of Martin Luther King was given standing behind a lectern. So unless the delivery is too jarring, too bad, you don't really have to comment on it. So these are the few points I felt that you shouldn't do or you must follow. That's it for me. Lasya.
Yeah. Okay, sometimes I envy you. Sometimes when people say Lasya has done a great job, I'm like, okay, that must be me. I'm like, no, 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 not you, Lasya Madireddy. I'm like, okay, all right. Now that you said that we should be honest in giving feedback, uh, I would ask the co-panelists if they have something to add on to what Toastmaster Lasya said.
Yeah, since you specifically asked a very interesting question on what not to do in an evaluation, let me give a couple of tips from my perspective on what not to do in an evaluation. The first and foremost, I would recommend do not whitewash. By that, what I mean is don't be in awe of the speaker and say awesome things. You're the best speaker I've ever listened to. Don't treat the speaker like a god. That whitewashing is never going to help that speaker improve to the next level, and therefore do not whitewash. On the contrary, do not blackball also. Blackball is only looking at the black spots and saying that, hey, just saying, oh, I loved your speech. However, here are the points. Okay, if you start out giving all the black spots that were there in the speech, that also is not going to go well. So neither whitewash nor blackball. And the third element is do not parrot. I've seen a lot of evaluators who come and relate exactly what the speaker said. You said this, you said this, then you said this, then you said this. It's like repeating exactly what the speaker is saying. There you are only projecting that, look at my awesome skills in terms of memory and look at my awesome skills in terms of note taking. That's not the purpose. So please avoid parroting the speech of the speaker. And the fourth thing is don't grandstand. By that, what I mean is there are some people who just come to show their talent in terms of the anecdotes, the stories, the kind of wordplay, and this and that. The evaluation is filled with their own skills in terms of the language, and many times it doesn't have anything to do with the speech itself. So this I call grandstanding. This is also something that needs to be avoided. And therefore, I think the best thing is to really look at what is the redirecting input I can give to the speaker and what is the reinforcing input that I can give to the speaker. To the extent that we are focused on these two things, we are giving a very well balanced evaluation. Anything else is not to be given to answer your question, Lasya.
Thank you so much. That was great. Toastmaster Pramod, would you like to add something to it?
I think Lasya and Padma Kumar sir put in a lot of valid points. I'll just add the how to their whats. So first part is about what not to do during an evaluation, what not to say, because as an evaluator, what equally matters is how you say things and not just what you say. Imagine yourself as a receiver of any feedback. Just imagine it in your head and imagine all the words that you would like to hear, all the adjectives, all the conjunctions, all the paraphrasing of sentences, and the things that make you feel good and motivated at the same time. And that is exactly what you're supposed to do. There is no rocket science to it, nor there is something etched in stone to go and follow. It's just introspect, understand what would make you feel motivated and happy at the same time while receiving a feedback. Try that out. Trust me, you are one of the 98% in the world who'd love to hear that. The second part is about whitewashing or blackballing. The simplest way to avoid a whitewash is to substantiate any point of appreciation. So if rather than just saying that, your speech was amazing, you would end up saying, the kind of energy and passion that you showed on stage while speaking about a topic that is very close to your heart made it really amazing to hear you speak. You just substantiated the adjective amazing. So you have not now whitewashed, rather given a very good commendation. So this is the way you avoid whitewashing. And how do you avoid blackballing? Is tell them how to improve and where to improve, rather than just saying you are low on energy and seem very monotonous. You should focus on that. I'd rather say this is how maybe at certain parts of your speech, if you use vocal variety, or at certain junctures, if you brought in elements of stronger body language or some props, your speech would have that variation in energy, which would make it seem very interesting. So you're telling them the how and the where, which then brings out a very strong point of blackballing and turns it into a very strong recommendation. So by substantiating a praise and by telling the speaker how and where to improve, you can avoid the whitewashes and the blackballs while delivering the evaluation. And the words that you tend to use, simple trick. Just think about it. Recollect all those words that would make you feel happy and motivated at the same time, and just go out and use it on stage. And while doing so, the best part, it will address the first question that you asked: honesty. When you genuinely use words which you believe, you appear as an honest person on stage. You don't appear made up. So that is maybe some tricks that you could try out.
Yeah. Toastmaster Pramod, I already caught you evaluating Toastmaster Padma Kumar and Toastmaster Lasya. All right. Well, since you said that it is important for us to be honest and say what we really felt about it. So, Toastmaster Pramod, now tell me, when I hear a speech, I do not find areas of improvement. Like, this is the most common question that we got in the survey. What do I do when I do not find an area of improvement? But it is a contest, I want to say it. What do I do?
Lasya, which industry do you work in?
Unfortunately, IT.
Same boat. Remember the first time you were debugging a code and the amount of time it took you to debug it, find the error in the code, and maybe after a few months you were very adept at finding errors. You knew a journey of an evaluator is no different. You learn. If you cannot find improvements, you got to go back, practice more so that your lens can focus better. You have a wider range of observation. You listen better. You practice, you come back. Next time you will be able to observe more things. If still you find some more, if you feel that you can do so much better, it's again going back and practicing. So for all the IT folks here, debugging a code and being an evaluator is no different. The more you expose yourself to situations, to tricky speeches, the more you learn, the better you get at observing and finding places which could enhance the speech and make it better. And eventually, when you start writing those amazing codes, it's not about debugging, it's about optimizing. So even the best speeches, you can go out there and optimize and tell them this is how you could have still done it better. It's about experience.
All right. So just a quick follow-up question. So there are people who have joined Toastmasters very recently, right before the contest. So they feel sometimes, okay, even I felt when I was very new to the contest, I joined like 2-3 weeks before the contest season, and I was directly put into the area contest. I'm like, what should I do? My contestant is this, and my target speaker is already a veteran here. So is it important for a newbie to consider all this? Is evaluation only to do something with experience? Can a new member not crack it?
It requires two things. One is a change in mindset, and the second one is building a skill set. So the building a skill set part we have already covered. We got to go back to the drawing board, understand the nuances and the basics of good speech writing, good speech delivery, which we find amply at Toastmasters through all the materials that we have. So that's our homework, to understand how do I focus my lens being an evaluator? What are the parameters I observe? The second part is the mindset shift. Am I good enough to give somebody an evaluation? Now imagine this. Why does a speaker deliver a speech? It is for an audience. And chances are the audience is not as adept at public speaking as the speaker. And maybe that is one of the reasons why the speaker is on stage trying to motivate people who want to get motivated by listening to someone. But how good the speaker is truly only understood and given as a feedback by the audience. So I give this example always that if 2 out of 100 people did not really find you interesting as a speaker, you would say I'm 98% there, I'm amazing. But then if that audience had to extrapolate to 10,000, there'd be 200 people who couldn't understand your speech and couldn't really relate to or find you interesting. So what we learn as speakers primarily, especially at Toastmasters, is you can always improve, and there'll always be people in the audience who you can please better through your speeches, who you can relate to better through your speeches. Eventually, the bottom line that comes through is everyone matters in the audience. As long as you cannot relate to that last person who's listening to you, you still have a scope to improve something. Which comes back, brings us back to our mindset issue. Now, even if you are that 100th person out of 100, okay, the last one who needs to be really convinced about a speaker, the speaker still deserves to have you as an audience, and you still deserve to have that speaker on stage. So you have to go out there and say, I deserve to give this evaluation because I am your audience. And if I as an audience feel that something could be done better so that you relate better with me, the topic resonates better with my thought process, I'm going to go out there and speak about it. And it's very relevant.
All right, that was amazing. Thank you for bursting that myth I had in my head. Well, so my next question to you is Toastmaster Lasya. I have always heard and I have seen you for your unique skill of the critical evaluation. You do a lot of critical thinking when something is given. You find out that logical flaw like this, and I'm like, how? How did she do? And then now my question to you is, we find a logical flaw, which is like a big thing on the right hand side. How do we manage the LHS and RHS? How can we do, like there are speeches where I only find areas of improvement. You're not audible.
What is LHS?
Okay, left hand side, right hand side. I'm from math background. Let me simplify it.
Student too. Okay, yeah.
All right, just saying. So there are some speeches where we find a lot of areas of improvement and less positives for some or the other reason. So how can we manage this critical part and the positives part? How can we do it? And how important it is to balance both of them. Like you said, be honest. Now, if I'm being honest, I will have to tell the areas of improvement.
Okay. Let me put it to you this way. If you take take a speech of the world champion of public speaking, so-called the best speech of the year. If you go back and try to evaluate, there is a point of improvement. There is no perfect speech. Every speech can be made better. Go back to the Martin Luther King speech that I said, it can be made better. Every single speech that you hear can be made better. So that is a mindset shift that Pramod was talking about. That shift needs to happen. That, okay, so if you have to look, so suppose there is a speech that is very, very bad. Like you said, the LHS versus the RHS. And similarly, as much as I said, every speech can be made better, every speech has a nice part. Nobody can be terribly bad, then he can't even stand on stage. If he could stand on stage and deliver a 7-minute speech, there is some good aspect of it also. Okay, so it's about, as much as I said, like you pointed out, I'm extremely critical. I get bogged down if the content is bad, but at the same time, there is something great about it. Maybe the value, maybe he couldn't deliver the speech well, but the value that he intended to deliver was amazing. There will be a good part to it. So typically how I try to keep it is, personally, is I would try to keep it as a 5-point. If the speech is great, there'll be 3 positives and 2 negatives, or points of improvement. Again, mindset shift. Okay. Else if the speech is not so great, there'll be 2 positives and 3 recommendations. All right. So that is where I try to balance it. It depends upon how the speech is, sometimes, yeah, if the speech is great, I'm also lost in his speech that, like you said, finding recommendations becomes a little difficult, but it's never that there isn't any. There is always a recommendation. Even, go back, record your speech and you'll think that, oh, how bad I was. It happens with me. All right. So there is always, so the balance is all there. It depends upon how we start thinking. All right. You hate that person, all negatives only come. That's bound to happen. All right. Or if you have, if you have those, or if you have a perceived notion that, oh, this guy's delivery is pathetic, you will never understand the speech. Even if you try to understand, you cannot. All right. Have a clear mind. There are always positives and points, recommendations. It's about, learning and trying to analyze and practice. Pick up the top 10 speeches, WCPS last 10 years. If you're able to evaluate that, you've mastered it. All right. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lasya. Now that you said that it depends on how we present. So my question to you is, is to you, Toastmaster Padma Kumar. I have seen you giving an amazing evaluation in a form of story, and that's your USP, people. I heard people. The moment I say Padma Kumar, they say the storytelling evaluation. So, can you tell me from an evaluation contest perspective, how should a technique be? What should I use? Is it advisable for me to go experiment in a contest?
Definitely. But before that, if I may point a couple of things based on your earlier questions, if I may, so I will also share a couple of thoughts on that. First off, I think it's very important to remember, you talked about newbie getting into a contest and having to evaluate an experienced speaker. I think one of the key things that we learn as Toastmasters is that it is not about the performer, it is always about the performance. That is something that we always need to keep in mind. We can't be fanboys, where whatever movie Shah Rukh Khan, we come back and, wow, great movie, great movie. We can't do that, right? We can't be fanboys or fangirls. By the same token, we cannot be those critics as well, who only point out as if they are the best directors in the world. They find a whole lot of faults in it. We definitely have to observe, which is a point that both of them made, that when we observe, please, when we note down the observations, don't use any qualification. Don't put any kind of value judgment saying good this thing, good that thing, bad this thing, bad. Leave out the good and the bad. Just observe and note down only the observations in a non-judgmental fashion. That helps in terms of making the evaluation a lot more balanced. That is one point I just wanted to mention. The second point, the LHS, RHS part, I like the kind of terminology in terms of LHS, RHS. I also do the same thing. I take a sheet of paper and make it into two parts. By and large, I noticed that in great speeches, initially, I used to find that always my LHS, which is the good points, used to be filling the page. And I hardly ever noticed, like Lasya rightly mentioned, hardly ever notice any of the points that need improvement. And then I struggle, oh my God, what am I going to say in terms of improvement? It's the question you asked. What if I do not find any? So therefore, when you take a LHS, RHS, also constantly ask yourself this question, like what Lasya was saying, how would one of the best speakers that you know, maybe Barack Obama, how would he have expressed it? How would he have used body language? For example, you talked about storyizing. Let me give you an example on this. When you notice Obama speak, when he says something, he says it with a deadpan face, but it is a great humor that he, kind of delivers. The audience maybe gets 1 or 2 seconds after he delivers it, and then they laugh. And then he laughs. And then they laugh one more time. It's a strategy. If you now go back and look at Obama's speeches, you will notice that most of his jokes get laughter 2 times. Once when the audience gets it, and second time when he smiles and acknowledges. He got that pleasant smile on his face, which again triggers another bout of laughter. Now, great speakers have fantastic, ways of delivering or anecdotes that they use in terms of delivering their points. First and foremost, for example, if you are going to, let's say, evaluate a speech where somebody is talking about a fable, right? There is a fable that they are talking about. Now, in your mind, what is the other fable that potentially can also be related here? And you don't just talk about the second fable, the one that you have decided. How do you link both the fables? For example, recently in one of the speeches, I had an opportunity where the talk was about investments, how to make investments in the right kind of things, right? As to how you look at the stock market, how you look at gold investment, how you look at real estate, and so on and so forth. So for me, immediately, the first thing that came to my mind is the fable of the 3 little pigs. And I said, somebody built it with straw, somebody built it with the woods and stone, somebody built it with cement and concrete, and so on and so forth. And so the big bad wolf. And then I said, what else can really add flavor? There is a common villain called the big bad wolf, which is also the villain in the Red Riding Hood. Now, when you have these kind of thoughts in your mind, and after that, if you plan your delivery, a couple of lines from here and there will embellish the speech so much, the evaluation so much, that the points that you make tend to be much more engaging and sticky. The whole purpose is this, that even if I deliver a fantastic evaluation, 3 minutes after you listen to it, if you forget what I tell you, then there's no purpose in that, right? Our basic purpose is to make it sticky. And I'm sure Pramod will agree with me, so also Lasya, that stories have the best effect in terms of retention. You will retain. With the story, the points will also get retained. And therefore, that's the one of the reasons why I use a lot of storyizing in my evaluation. And personally, I love it because for me, it's an exercise in creativity, but more importantly, it helps the listener to retain what I'm saying. Both engagement and retention is the purpose of using storyizing in evaluations.
So can I say that you are recommending or you are encouraging a member to experiment in a contest? So you are not, are you trying to say that there's no specific
Well,
style of doing it?
Well, I wouldn't say go and experiment in the contest. Experiment and then contest. Experiment, master it, and then contest. I don't want you to, go onto the stage for the first time ever trying to use storyizing in your evaluation at the contest stage, right? So that's not a fair kind of an expectation. But there are so many opportunities where in clubs or in other context, you can really practice and get familiar, get comfortable. And then when you feel that, yes, I have now got this particular skill, then you go out and use it in a contest. So I wouldn't encourage experimentation for the first time using story-based evaluation in a contest.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Toastmaster Padma Kumar. So to conclude, what you said is practice everything in a club level and then see what fits you right and then follow the same thing in the contest. Am I right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, having said all this, I heard about Toastmaster Pramod that he's known for his delivery of an evaluation. While he notes the points, but he does a lot of, he puts in a lot of effort to deliver it. He brings in unique points, try to pick up things from the speaker's speech, and then try to deliver it. I heard one of your evaluation regarding some musical speech, and I'm like awestruck just because I heard it. I didn't see you do it. So, Toastmaster Pramod, would you suggest that this plays a crucial role? Like everyone has their own style of delivering, correct? Now, in a contest, would you say that do this will be more impactful? Or even if I'm going to stand in the same place and then say this to conclude this. What is your opinion on it? How important it is for me to express my evaluation?
Well, the evaluator that has left the most impact on me at Toastmasters was a person who used to come on stage with an A4 sized paper and read through very relevant points, structure them, phrase them very simply, and leave the stage. And he was a district champion. Okay. Uh, Delivery. So to go back to your question and understand how much role does delivery play in any evaluation, we as a contestant, we have to go back and look at the ballot. Inside a judge's ballot, only 15 marks are allocated out of 100 to the style of your delivery. 50 marks are on your analysis of the speech, which comes from practice, listening, observation, etc. And 30 marks are allocated ideally to your recommendations. That is how a ballot works. So everything that boils down to from your question is towards those 15 marks, the style of delivery. It doesn't really matter, but it is like serving food without garnish if you don't have anything to deliver. A district contest is like audiences, speakers, everyone coming to a fine dine restaurant. Now, you should serve tasty food for sure, but you need to also plate it well. If you miss out on either, the customer is not going to be satisfied. And that is how contests work. You come to the contest, you don't over garnish it. Don't want too much coriander such that, the aloo methi tastes like coriander methi. Okay. But you need to garnish it enough so that it also appears nice. Now, how do you do it in a contest? Two things. First, practice on your basics. As a contestant, your 80-85 marks in a contest is all about you analyzing the speech, observing it well, and giving recommendations. Focus on those basics first. If you are new to Toastmaster, trying your hands at contests first, I have learned it the hard way. I was all jazz. I learned it the hard way at the district. Then I was all plain vanilla, learned it even harder. And then I just topped my vanilla with some choco chips, and it worked well. So here, first you need to go back to the drawing board, focus only on the basics of listening, observation, delivering it impactful. Then when you go to a contest and prepare, you need to learn that garnish. No, as Sir said, Padma Kumar Sir said, can you encapsulate it in form of some story? Can you draw some relevance through metaphors, analogies from the speech? Can you have a simpler style so that the audiences recollect your evaluation later pretty easily? So you work on that, you find what is most suitable to your style, and you go and try it out in a contest. One caveat here is that when you try anything like this, the audience should not remember your story. They should remember your evaluation and the points with them. So we have to ensure that after all said and done, when we go and try these things out, especially at a contest, you don't want to be going out to a contest where a speaker speaks about food and you say that your speech was like a game of football. Okay, you don't want to go and do that. You want to establish relevance. You want to still ensure that the hero of your evaluation are those pointers that you deliver, and the story and the encapsulation, as Sir said, are merely these supplements which will help anyone from the audience easily recollect your evaluation later, because stories are the best form to help great recollection and embed it very powerfully in the listener's mind. So that is something we have to ensure. Delivery helps, but basics are more important, because at the end of the day, even if the contest that I was lucky enough to eventually go and win was a contest where I just stood at a place and used a piece of paper. So,
All right. Thank you so much. So, my dear audience, if you have something to ask to our panelists, then you can keep it posted in the chat box. I would personally suggest you to post it to me so that I can easily read it out. Well, before I ask you further questions, I have something sort of game sort of thing. All right. To all the panelists here, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to say yes or no. You will not explain yourself. All right. Okay, I already see that expression coming. Yeah, it's my time. Right. So let me begin with Toastmaster Lasya. All right. Toastmaster Lasya, your first question is it's important for me to know great English to be a great evaluator.
No.
No, it is important for me not to practice and just go because I'm a veteran Toastmaster.
No.
request.
No helping, Pramod. You can't do this. All right.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
All right. My third question is: is it important for me to do the co-contestant analysis before I go to the contest?
Not at all.
All right. Thank you so much. I saw that expression coming. Not at all. All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lasya. Moving on, Toastmaster Padma Kumar. It is important to put in a lot of effort to make the evaluation unique.
Sorry, I lost the last part of your question.
All right.
Can you
It is
repeat
important for
the
an
question?
evaluator to put in a lot of effort to make his evaluation unique.
No.
No. Okay. It is important for me as a evaluator to keep writing all the time when I'm listening to the target speaker.
No.
It is important as an evaluator for me to just listen, retain, test my memory on the stage. I will not make any notes. I will not do anything. I'm just going to say, as a listener, I felt this. So,
no.
No? Okay. Thank you. I hope you'll say yes, at least somewhere. Okay. My question to you, Pramod. Right. My first question to you is, your points can be basic, but delivery is the king of evaluation.
No.
Okay, all you have to do in an evaluation contest is write down everything, just go say it, and your language can be anything. Okay, to explain this question more, Toastmaster Pramod, I was confused somewhere while you were talking about the coriander, but however I like the coriander. So all I'm trying to say is going onto the stage, speaking what you heard and coming back, that's it. That is evaluation. Is that so?
No.
No. All right. It is important for me to appreciate the target speaker, not the speech. Is it so?
Up to you.
You can't say that. I said yes or no.
I wouldn't do that for the sake of it.
Okay, you should not say all those. You should say yes or no.
No.
No, no, you should do it. You don't know. Okay, just kidding. All right. Well, thank you so much. And let's move on to the next part. We have always I have heard in most of the education sessions that the terminology that we use in evaluation plays a crucial role. For example, the words in the ballot say in my analysis, recommendation, summary, technique. And usually I heard that it is a good practice to announce your technique before you present your evaluation, at least in a contest, because if you use such terminology, you already get the judges' attention. How true is this, Toastmaster Lasya?
I would say yes. You would have to slate, how you're going to speak it, so that both the speaker as well as the audience are aware about your flow. So it's important to definitely slate your method, but at the same time, there is a common flaw that a lot of people make in this. Most people say, hey, I'm going to use the sandwich method, but you have a positive, you have a recommendation, and the conclusion. There is no commending again. Okay, so there is a common flaw, but yes, I believe that you would have to slate it. So that's the multiple styles, delivery, content, and language. However you would want to do your evaluation, it's wiser you saying, hey, I'm going to talk about content first, then I'm going to talk about delivery, then I'm going to talk about language. Isn't it easier for the person to assimilate, the person who's your target speaker also can assimilate his, okay, she's going to talk about my content, and else it will look so haphazard, right? It will help assimilate the points of both the target speaker and the audience. It is important.
All right. So you're telling that it's a good habit to say, but it is not mandatory to say.
It's not mandatory. It's a good thing.
All right. Now that you have said that, let me ask Toastmaster Padma Kumar that should a judge of an evaluation contest really consider these terminologies?
Well, I wouldn't suggest that, because that would go, on a mechanical kind of basis. Like, for example, if I were an evaluator in an exam, and if I say if the candidate has written all the subheadings, correct subheadings, then I will mark him high, irrespective of what he has put under those subheadings. That's not the right approach. For me, a judge has got to really understand that the intent is to help the speaker get to the next level. And to the extent that the evaluator is able to do that using whatever techniques, I have seen several different techniques being used by evaluators. So as it is, I personally do not suggest the straight-jacketed approach, because those are good to begin, those are good to start with. But by the time you get to a contest level, you need to have a good understanding of why is it that you're doing whatever you're doing. If you focus on the what and the how, what am I doing and how am I doing, then you stay at certain level. But the moment you are able to transcend to that why am I doing this, then it gives you the right kind of a focus as to how do I best communicate this whole message to the target speaker. How can I make this most valuable to the target speaker? For that, your own creativity, your own methods are very much acceptable. I don't think we should constrain it, saying that, oh, only then the judges will notice and give the points. No, judges are also very intelligent beings. They also understand that just because I say now to summarize and then I don't give the right summary, I give something, they will still give me points for summary. This is a fallacy. Some people I've seen specifically saying, hey, remember to say now to summarize. When the red card comes, say to summarize. Then you will get the points for summarization. I mean, if the judge gives the marks for summary, he is not doing the right job. It has to actually be a summary rather than be called a summary. This is my view. I don't think we should go too much by just the structure of it and give the marks for the structure.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Padma Kumar. So having said this, we usually see, so my question is to you, Pramod. So we see that usually I in a lot of sessions or YouTube or anywhere, we see that we have to follow a particular timing. Healthy evaluation will not be more than 2 minutes 30 seconds, or your evaluation is supposed to be in this timing, or when you see yellow card you should say to summarize. So how do we manage time while evaluating?
First and foremost, I believe that you have to learn to manage time. How is the second part? How is to each one what suits them, whatever style of evaluation they are adopting. Uh, as an evaluator, specifically at a contest, first things first, why do we have a time attached to an evaluation? Because it is a monologue on feedback. And trust me, we don't really want to hear a monologue on feedback beyond 3 minutes 30 seconds, even in real life. So Toastmasters very carefully and smartly devised this evaluations to be between 2.5 to 3.5 minutes. Okay. Uh, at the contests, it is not about what do you do when you see the green card, what do you do when you see the yellow card or the red card. It's more about what is the structure that you have practiced. As Padma Kumar sir said, uh, it doesn't really matter to the judges. They are not too bogged down by structure, though they need clarity. Because if the judges don't understand what you evaluated, and if it's all over the place, like Lasya mentioned, you're not going to get scored for it. Even though if your points are brilliant, you're still going to lose points because it wasn't clear. So structure helps. So once as an evaluator, I'm comfortable with the certain structure that I find honest to what I'm comfortable with. The structure when I know that I can bring in a decent degree of clarity in my evaluation, I follow it. And then if I practice enough, I know that at this juncture, this is where I reach. At this juncture, this is where I reach. And the cards then don't really matter because you know that for any speech that you evaluate, if you're going to follow your set structure, you're never going to exceed a certain time limit. With regards to the flag, the only suggestion that I would give you, and coming from me, trust me that it is very credible because I have lost out by a second at the district contest finals too. So I can tell you this, that after the red card, you still get comfortable 4 to 5 sentences, basic English sentences with one conjunction each to complete in 30 seconds. You don't have to panic. You don't have to see the red card, just stop your point and say, I would love to see you again on stage and go away. That's not how you do it. I know it instills a degree of panic in you the moment you see the red card, but that's something that we need to learn to beat as contestants. Red card is just another milestone, and it tells us that you still have 4 good sentences to wrap up your point. Okay, start the summary, complete the summary, and end with a nice little positive statement to complete that bread of the sandwich. But you have that time. You can do it. So the only thing as contestants I feel that has helped me too is the red card doesn't really matter. As long as you have practiced your structure enough, you can fit any speech within it.
All right. Thank you so much. So I have a question from one of our guests. So Toastmaster Saloni, she asked that, is it recommended to plan or make a structure of evaluation well before, or it could be just decided by seeing the speech? Well, to make it more clear, so whoever comes on the stage, I have 7 parameters of evaluation: specific purpose, structure, transition, body language, eye contact, and whatever is my plan. I already have it ready. If the speaker has it, tick. If he doesn't have it, cross. So should we go with such kind of template? Anyone in the panelist could answer.
Well, to tell you, I started learning how to evaluate by using that template that you said. Yes, my initial few, probably 20 evaluation did have a nice little template. Tick, no, tick, no, pick the best two here, and then give the evaluation. All right. That is how, I mean, first, it takes a lot of courage to come up and give feedback to somebody whom you think is much better than you. It does take time. So initially, probably you could start off with a template, but as like you said, how do you give, when you're at a district level, all right, there'll be a lot of, I mean, the quality of speech is much, much better that, all your ticks will be like on the, your LHS side, your RHS, like you said, in 90%, like if you're target speaker at a district level, all these are all ticked already. All your ballot points are all ticked. Or if you have to compare that speech to an ISC ballot, it ticks off. All right. So initially you could start off, but going forward, as you mature into it, learn how to analyze, understand what exactly is that specific purpose that the person is trying to deliver. What is the value that he's giving in a speech? These are the most important points in a speech that you need to look forward for. Initially, when you're starting off, taking help of the templates is perfectly okay. You're still learning, it takes time to grow up the ladder. Initially, it's fine, but as you grow, probably the 30th evaluation, you should stop looking at those templates. That's what. But to start off, I would still recommend you, that'll give you the courage to go up on stage and give an evaluation.
All right. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lasya. So we have Toastmaster Apeksha, and she has a
Lasya,
question.
can I add something
Yes,
to this?
absolutely. I'm sorry.
My view is that we can't force fit to a template. However, I have had good experiences in terms of using some very creative type of association, like the metaphors that Pramod was talking about. For example, I had upfront decided that I'm going to look at the speech from a perspective of a comparison with a successful hit song. Okay, so I start off this whole evaluation saying, I mean, if I'm bold enough, I'll sing a couple of lines of that song and say, this is one of my favorite songs, and I'm sure all of you also have favorite songs. Now, what is it about a song that makes it our favorite? The music part of it, the lyrics part of it, and the voice. So when the voice is superb, when the lyrics or the words are superb, when the tune is superb, then the song tends to remain. In this speech, what was the song, or what was the lyrics, what was the voice would be the vocal variety, for example, and so on and so forth. So you get the thing, right? So did it follow a good kind of a structure in terms of tune, and was it good in terms of the content, which is the lyrics part of it, and was it delivered well, vocal variety, which is the voice of the artist. So having something like that sometimes helps a lot. But my suggestion is, I can't go with all the description also written. The basic template is something which is very useful if I find that a speech can be, looked at in these three aspects, in terms of how good was the vocal variety, how good was the content itself, and how good was the structure. And then I can possibly relate it to a Bollywood song and say that, okay. So that is something that I found to be useful. But as Lasya said, do not depend on this as the only method. If it strikes you for a given evaluation, feel free to use it.
Fair point.
Right. Yeah. So Pramod, do you have something to add?
I think sir was spot on there. You don't want to go to a beach wearing a tuxedo. You need to have some options with you. So that is something that we have to. It is our tool. It is not our limitation. That is something that we have to understand as evaluators. And if you really, it just strikes to you and finds relevance, use it, because then you will be genuine on stage. But if you decide that no matter what, I am going to only do this, especially with the analogies and the metaphors, you might end up sounding very out of context. And also, yeah, true. So that's about it. Use it as a tool, but not as your limitation.
All right. Thank you so much. So there's someone named guest, and there's no suffix or prefix. So the guest says most of the champion YouTube evaluations address or include the audience in their evaluation. They try to present it in a second person's perspective. So how important is it for me as an evaluator in a contest to involve audience in my evaluation?
Can I take this up?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So when you say involve the audience, do you mean you ask them a question? What is the relevance here? So
Okay, okay, I'll make it more explicit. I mean, I can relate to what the person is asking. So, for example, I'm evaluating you. Okay, they're all listening. And so Toastmaster Pramod has done this in the speech, which I absolutely loved. Toastmaster Pramod has done this, he. So this is involving audience. Like I'm telling your story to them.
This is something that has really helped me. I can share this. So what I try to tend to do during, not just during a contest, but generally while evaluating anywhere, is have a mixture. I mean, I would look you in the eye and say, Lasya, what I really loved about your speech was the fact that what Lasya also did really well was, and if the speaker had to try something else. So you're shuffling between first person, second person, and third person. You're shuffling, and it's pretty natural. If I continuously barge onto your eyes and say, you should have done this last year, you go like, okay, look away. There are 550 people sitting in the auditorium. And if you never look at, if you are the test speaker, and if I just look at the audience and speak, last year I did this, and last year, I would like, you would be sitting in the audience saying, I am right here. At least once look me in the eye and address. You just have to bring out all the flavor, and you have to seem very natural. And this is pretty natural, right? When I'm addressing a group of say 20 people, they're sitting in the huddle of friends, and you're talking about any topic, you're going to see everybody. You're going to refer to people as first person, second persons in your stories, in your recollections. Evaluation is no different. Just go there, shuffle naturally, and yeah, just bring that variation out. There is no rocket science to this.
So one point to add to that is, I've seen some people saying the audience felt this, the audience enjoyed this. I mean, we don't know, right? How do I know that audience enjoyed? So I would recommend that we stick to, I heard this, I saw this, I felt this. To the extent that we are able to make it my experience, that is authentic. If you actually see somebody rolling on the floor laughing, you can say, I saw an audience member rolling on the floor laughing. That's okay. But you don't double guess what the audience felt. Audience felt very enthusiastic. How the hell do you know what the audience felt, right? So don't speak on behalf of the audience. Stick to what I heard, I saw, I felt. That's my recommendation.
All right, thank you so much. But again, personally, I'm always afraid to address to the audience, then the speaker, then confuse everyone. So when I'm in this contest mode, I'm like, yeah, contest, I should not do this, I should not do that. So sometimes I began to feel that. But however, after you said that, it is important for us to analyze and then get onto the stage. So there's a question from Toastmaster Apeksha to Toastmaster Padma Kumar. How do we discover our style while definitely experience helps us, but do we form or create our own style? How do we discover our own style?
Yeah. So for me, discovering your own style, I gave an example where I looked at how I would have preferred feedback from my two bosses right in the beginning, right? So I did not really look at Toastmaster evaluation as something which was being started at that point of time. I fell back on my experience from early times when I first reported to those bosses what I got and what I would prefer to get, right? So to the extent that you're able to look at it more as a life skill, then you become a lot more authentic in terms of the way in which you will present this whole thing. So I keep saying this, that evaluation is really speaking a life skill. Maybe humor is a nice skill to have, but not necessarily a mandatory skill, right? If I don't know swimming, for example, maybe I am a little constrained, but I won't die. But if I don't know evaluation, then relationship will die. So to that extent, look at evaluation not as something you learn and practice in Toastmasters. It is something that we have been born with right from day one. We have been evaluated, we have received evaluations, we have given evaluations, some of them have worked, some of them have not worked. So by the time you actually become 18 years old, which is the least age to get into Toastmasters, you already have 18 years worth of experience, real life experience. So to discover your style is not after you get into a contest situation or something. So live true to that style. For example, today, if I think of myself as a storyizer, it's because I feel so happy, so comfortable, so fulfilled when I'm able to use storyizing to make my messages retained as well as engaging, right? So therefore, I'm also trying to bring that element into my style of evaluation. Different people will have different kinds of styles, but this is does not get born after you get onto the stage to do an evaluation. It is there with you. So it's a process of just understanding what am I, who am I mean, I don't want to get into the philosophical questions as it is, but definitely if you ask yourself the question saying what feedback from people have I enjoyed the most, what did I feel when I got this kind of feedback from this person 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then if you use that as your basis on saying, okay, how can I best add value to the speaker? I think we will discover our style very soon, very quickly.
Okay, I have a point to add here. I think you don't discover your style, but you create a style. You don't discover, you create your own brand, you create your own style of evaluation. All right, like Pramod, practice, and his delivery and his evaluation is amazing, it's flamboyant. Okay, it's this thing, it takes a lot of practice to create your own style. And I would also recommend you to experiment a lot and then see, you know your general audience, the way they respond to your different style of evaluation, and then probably just stick to one. I would also suggest, stick to a style of evaluation that it actually becomes your brand. In my case, I always start with a triad. All right. Somebody somewhere started with a triad, and I'm getting a WhatsApp. Last year, this guy in this club has done this. 2 people from that club messaged me saying, hey, this has happened. So it's nice also to create a brand or a style of your own that it stays with you, that even though your physical presence is not there, somebody when you say, hey, it's originated from this person who used it a lot. So you create your own styles, keep experimenting and create a style. It's recommended to adopt one style and continue on. It creates a brand, Pramod, or brand Padma. Like Padma Storyize, uses storytelling as a technique, to give out the evaluation. So that becomes his brand of, trying to give an evaluation. So, experiment and stick to the thing that works for you or works for the audience who's listening to you.
Lasya, can I add just one more thing to this?
Yeah.
How do we discover that style? I think both of them already said it, but just to summarize, whenever you go and do something on stage and when you come back, if it makes you feel happy, fulfilled and satisfied, that is something that you can use as a building block to your style.
All right, that's amazing. Right. So there is one interesting question which I can relate.
There was a triad. Did you notice, Lasya? There was a triad. What Pramod said just
building. Right. So there's this question from Kirti Raj. She says that at times I get engrossed in the excellent delivery of the speaker, the wow moments in the speech. How do I not get swayed away at such times and still stay in the shoes of an evaluator? Anyone can go ahead.
If you know that you're definitely going to get swayed, write down, like, that first paragraph, just write down like 3 words out of that, giving the crux, so that you definitely know you're not getting swayed. Depends, again, if you definitely know you're going to get swayed, write it down. I write down the 2 lines in the entire first paragraph. I'll have it written, the 3-4 keywords, so that I don't get swayed. So that, okay, did he say this or did he say that? I have my key points on my paper. When I'm analyzing the speech back again, I have it. So that I don't get swayed, I do that. This is what I do personally.
I have tried one trick every time I have been swayed by a speaker. Because one of the key things that I try to do is I try to fall in love with the speaker and the speech. So getting swayed is very easy. Trust me. Uh, Once the speech concludes, I give myself 5 to 10 seconds, just close my eyes and try to experience the entire gamut of emotions again. And our human mind is very demanding. I need to just ask one question repeatedly. What else? What else could have made me feel better? What else could have made me feel resonate better with the speech? Just keep asking yourself that repeatedly until you arrive at a point and say, there is this one point where the speaker for 3 seconds put their hand in their pockets. That was out of the place. You'll find most minuscule and still relevant pointers where you felt that the speaker could have done better. And that is something that you can also use for your recommendations. Our minds are very demanding as speakers. We are not easily satisfied as humans. Even if we get something sweet, we would want something sweeter. So that is something we have to trust. Just relive those emotions for 10 seconds and think, I love the speaker. But maybe the color of the tie, and just come up with the most ridiculous answers in your head. But you're going to find that one point very soon. Trust your head and trust your mind to come up with.
Pramod,
One
by
of the
any
key
chance, can
techniques
you?
that we use. Sorry.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead. No
Yeah.
problem.
So one of the key techniques that we use as well as teach in problem solving is how would Mr. X do this? So this is a way in terms of thinking. Normally what we do is that when we think of some problem, we limit the solution to our capabilities. To get out of this box and to say, supposing I had no limits in terms of abilities, capabilities, how would I solve it? To get that answer, you ask a question saying, how would Superman solve this? Or how would Batman solve this? How would Batgirl solve this? That's a known technique. So using the same kind of technique, if you ask yourself, how would Narendra Modi deliver this, for example, a great orator, right? How would Obama deliver this? So that gives you an inkling in terms of what you can provide as recommendations or suggestions. And that also helps you to think beyond, otherwise, what I said earlier, that you tend to get a little, like a fanboy or fangirl for the person, and you start, kind of admiring that person so much that you only hear the positives, you only look at the positives. So you need to really develop that skill of saying, how would somebody else who's very accomplished do this particular thing? And that will give you some pointers.
So can I add a short corollary to that? Something that has helped me. How would Mr. X do it? See, one thing that I spoke very early was personalizing evaluations. Now, if there is a speaker who by nature is very subdued and very controlled and not very flamboyant, we couldn't try and compare them to someone who's a very flamboyant speaker. So the first question I ask is, who does this person resonate with? There are different kinds of speaker you see. You see a Harsha Bhogle just using a lectern to mesmerize people. Then you have these world championship speakers who use the entire stage to mesmerize you. And both of them are equally impactful. So just first draw that analogy. This speaker seems to be someone who is similar to maybe a Harsha Bhogle or maybe a Dhananjay. And then ask that question, how would Dhananjay now do it? So, and then give the evaluation. You will realize that you then resonate a lot more with the speaker because it is now personalized. You are not compromising their inherent nature while giving them recommendations. You are giving them a good little direction to work towards. So, yeah. Yes. For bringing it up.
All right. Thank you so much. We are 8:29. I would love to keep the meeting on time. And with the interest of time, I request all the audience to keep the questions posted in my WhatsApp. I'll share them with the panelists. Once they come up with the answer, I will keep you posted. We are not going to leave them so easily. They are panelists. They have to answer us. Saying. So with the interest of time, I would love to call the questions from the audience to an end, and there is a special request. So there is one of the audience who would want to hear a demo evaluation. Is anyone up for it? The content is me, please evaluate my performance. Thanks. With that, we can call it a day. So yeah, who's up for it?
I'll give you a demo evaluation.
Yeah.
Today at lunch, I did not tell my mother that the sambar had less salt. I told her that next time, mom, when you make sambar, let's ensure that the salt levels complement the taste of it.
No. Pramod, this is not working out. Demo evaluation is contest evaluation. Toastmaster Pramod, you were it goes on. So we want to hear one such evaluation. Like you guys have that experience and yeah, we look up to you. So one demo evaluation on something random, if you can remember, so that people know what we have spoke all the while. If it can be put into a performance, then it would be great. It's a special request from my end.
Lasya, I think you can go ahead with the triad, please.
Sorry. Oh, you just told her. See, this is the confusion. This is why I don't like it.
So we evaluate Lasya. So I evaluate Lasya, is it?
Okay.
Okay, I'll make it very, very, very short. Okay. So good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and a special good evening to you, Toastmaster Lasya. It was an energetic, enthusiastic, and an enthralling session that we had. We all loved the way you had moderated our panelist session. What I really loved about your session was you kept the session very engaging. You ensured that, you know, every question you asked, you gave that minute to see if the other panelists had any points to add. And that requires a lot of presence of mind, which you had exhibited during your speech, during your session. And the second thing that I really liked is you had, you had potloads of questions coming down your way. You had, skillfully ensured you were on time, looking at the timers, looking at the questions, choosing the right questions that have to be posted to the different panelists. So that is something that I really, really liked. Okay, so every session can be made much, much better. So to make your session a little better, or to adding more pearls to your session, the points that I would like to give you are, as much as you were engaging, there were a couple of there was this PR manager who had goofed up with the Anuj thing for everybody. So there were points to pointing on Anuj, which could have been avoided, because it's a very formal it is a very formal panel discussion. So a different point, they could have been kept offline and not having as an intrusion into the session. The second point that I have is an overall, we started 8 to 10 minutes late. I wish it's a division level event, that if at a division level event cannot start on time, you cannot expect a club level to start on time. So ensuring as a moderator, ensuring things start on time could have made the session much better. All right. In toto, you were engaging and you enthralled each one of us. However, a little attention to the Toastmaster basics of being on time and being in focus to the panel would have added much more value. Over to you, Lasya. Sorry, I just made this up on top.
I already felt like a target speaker. Dear target speaker, I am sorry. I evaluate you so much, like every level. Hands down. Thank you, Toastmaster Lasya. It was amazing listening to you. And I saw that all the points that we have discussed were put into it. And I'm sure all the feedback I got today, I'm going to implement. And,
sorry.
It was amazing listening to you. However, I would go back and tell my mentoree, did you hear this? Do you think I did a good job? So I think you helped me get all. Yeah. So thank you so much, all the three panelists, Toastmaster Lasya and DTM Pramod Mohandas, DTM Padma Kumar. Thank you so much for accepting our request and being a part of this. I really had an amazing, enlightening session. I had a lot of things that I took away. However, I didn't make notes on a paper, but I was secretly writing. Now I'm going to tell all my mentees that you should do this, you should not do this. So thank you for giving me a lot of content. And with the interest of time, like I have mentioned, we will take all the questions offline. Please do not hesitate to ping me the questions. I will bother the panelists, just saying it. So Thank you so much, all the audience, for being here. It was a great evening. With this, I would like to hand over the stage to our Sergeant at Arms.
Can I just suggest one thing, Lasya? I noticed that
Yes.
some of the people are still pinging. So would it be okay for all three of us to just leave our phone numbers in the chat so that whoever wants to talk to us later can talk to us? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are patient enough to take all the questions, if you are okay giving your phone number,
No, what I mean is,
absolutely.
see, we don't want people to go back feeling that some point of theirs did not get answered. But I do respect that we're going to close the session on time. So if it's okay with you, whoever wants to, I'm not forcing everybody, but we can put our numbers on the chat, and people who prefer to talk to us one-on-one can always talk to us.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
okay?
That works.
All right.
That
Thank you.
definitely works. So yeah, you can drop your number in the chat, and anything works. So that's it from my end. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, Toastmaster Padma Kumar. You said you want to give your number. I don't know if I would have done that. I'm like, no. Just kidding. With this, I would like to hand over the stage to the most energetic and beautiful, everything she said to me, Toastmaster Shivani, the Sergeant at Arms for this evening.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lasya. Well, wow, what a wonderful session and engaging session we had with great learnings and different perspectives from our amazing panelists. On behalf of Division EFGHN Division Directors, I thank Toastmaster Lasya for leading this session. Our sincere thanks to our panelists, distinguished Toastmaster Padma Sir, distinguished Toastmaster Pramod, and Toastmaster Lasya for sharing their experience on effective evaluation. I would like to thank Toastmaster Furkan, I'm so sorry, for making this webinar go live, and our amazing audience who are there with us for long hours. Last but not the least, I thank the executors behind this show. Division EFGHN Division Director Toastmaster Manidi, Toastmaster Sandeep, Toastmaster Anish, Toastmaster Animesh, and Toastmaster Mayuri. Our PQ Chair, Toastmaster Divesh, and our PR Chair, Toastmaster Anuj. I wish you all the best for the club meetings and contests ahead. Now, I officially close this panel discussion on Evaluation 2020. Thank you so much. But before that, as requested by Toastmaster Padma Sir, we have our panelist phone number. Kindly note down and reach out to them for the queries. And also, we would like to have a picture for today's session. Kindly switch on your video so that we can have a great picture, a memory of our session. I request everyone to switch on their video so that I can take a picture. Give me some time. Actually, I'm logging from my phone. I'm so sorry for this much of delay.
I captured.
Oh, thank you so much, Toastmaster Lasya, for helping me with this. So thank you so much, everyone. Good night, stay safe, and take care. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
If you guys are looking for some networking break or something, I think you can stay back. We are not pushing off anyone.
Yes.
All right. So, Toastmaster Padma Kumar, I have a question for you.
Oh,
that
okay. I thought you're
it's,
going to say thank you very much. So,
no. I think we had a good time here. So I don't know, what is that one thing you would want to say the new people? Like, this is not a official discussion or something, just as a part of networking. You've been there for 10 years in Toastmasters. You have already served in the executive position for Deloitte. So what would you want the new Toastmasters, the youngsters, to learn
So
something?
yeah, so one is the first couple of years in Toastmasters is full of learning, and from the second year onwards, it is partly learning, partly sharing. So the more we share, the more we learn. So I would say from 2 to 5 years, it is predominantly a combination of learning and sharing. And from the fifth year onwards, we learn that there has to be a predominant sharing or giving. It develops in that kind of a fashion. And one of the key things that keeps a lot of Toastmasters going for several years, I know Toastmasters who have 25 years in Toastmasters or 25, 27 years in Toastmasters. Now, what keeps them going is the fact that they get to really share what they have gained to the broader community. And I think to the extent that we develop that mindset, as was rightly pointed out, that abundance mindset of sharing what we know, we will continue to reap a lot of benefits from Toastmasters.
All right, that's listening to you. I just realized that we are still live on Facebook. I will connect with you in person for more such questions.